So continuing with our idea of function notation, it's helpful to understand how a function works, and it helps to think of it like an input and output machine. So like machines, functions take in inputs and give back outputs. So for example, this function machine here is putting in 46, and what's coming out is S of 46. So 46 is the input and S of 46 is the output. So if the input is 30, then the output would be S of 30. The set of all values that a function can take in as inputs is called the domain of a function. That is all of your x values. And the set of all values the function will return as outputs is called the range, and that is also your y values. In order for us to actually find those inputs and outputs, we have to find or be given the rule that the function follows, or the equation that the function follows, because otherwise we can't find anything. So we have this table here that gives us an input of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and n. When they get to this point, they're not actually stopping at 5 and asking you to say what 6 is, or 7, or 8. They're just letting n represent every other number possible. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, all the way to infinity. The outputs are giving us 1, 3. So 1 gives us 1, 2 gives us 3, 3 gives us 5, putting in 4 gives out 7, putting in 5 gives out 9, and putting n into whatever this function rule is going to give us the nth odd number. Well, this function for the odd numbers, which we call O of n, is 2 times n minus 1. This is called the odd number function. You are going to need that multiple times on your assignment. This is the odd number function. And the reason it's called an odd number function is because no matter what number you put in here for n, it will always give you an odd number. So when they ask this for this notation, it says O of n is an odd number function, find O of 13 when O of n equals 2n minus 1. There's something very important that you need to write down. When you see this notation, O of 13, E of 7, S of 11, C of 2. Whenever you see something like this, and they're asking you what it is, all they're asking you to do is to take these numbers, whatever they are, and plug them in to the equation. You take these numbers and you plug them in, and you see what it gives you. So going back to this first problem they gave us this function, O of n equals 2 times n minus 1. They ask us for O of 13. That means they want us to take 13 and put it in for n. So we're going to write 2 times 13 minus 1, and we're going to see what it gives us. Well, 2 times 13 is 26. 26 minus 1 is 25. So the answer to this problem is 25. Or we could say that O of 13 equals 25. And that would be our answer. We could also translate this, because this is the odd number function, we could rewrite this as the 13th odd number is 25. That's what this means. So for the next problem, they give us an even number function, which is a way to always get even numbers, and it tells us to find E of 7 when E of n equals 2 times n. So what they're wanting us to do is to plug in 7 for n. So instead of 2 times n, we're going to do 2 times 7, which is 14. So what this means is that E of 7 equals 14. It also means that the 7th even number is 14. Our next function is a square function, so it's going to always produce square numbers. So they say find s of 11 when s of n equals n squared. So they want us to take 11 and put it in place of n. So we're going to find out what 11 squared is, and it gives us 121. So we could say that s of 11 equals 121, or we could say that the 11th square number is 121. For the next one, it gives us a circumference function. So it tells us that to find c of 2, when c of r equals 6.28, that means we're going to take 2 and we're going to plug it in for r. So we're going to do 6.28 times 2, and 6.28 times 2 is going to be 12.56. So that means that c of 2 equals 12.56. And lastly is our area function. And it asks us to find a of 1. And these last two, by the way, cannot be translated into sentences like these others, like the 13th odd number or the 11th square number. That's why I didn't rewrite that. But for this last one, I'm going to take 1, and I want to plug it in for r. So I'm going to rewrite this as 3.14 times 1 squared. And if you plug that in the calculator, it's just going to give you 3.14. So we could say that a of 1 equals 3.14. Moving on to our checkup, number 1 says to find O of 30. So they just want us to take 30 and put it in for n. So we're going to do 2 times 30 minus 1, which is 60, minus 1, which is 59. So that would be our answer. For 3, they want you to find O of 12, so you're going to plug 12 in for n. So we're going to do 2 times 12 minus 1. 2 times 12 is 24 minus 1, which is 23. So we could say that O of 12 equals 23. And remember, this is the odd number function, so we could also say the 12th odd number is 23. Number 5 asks us to find E of 13, where E of n equals 2n. So we're going to plug in 13 here. So we're going to do 2 times 13, which is 26. So we would say that E of 13 equals 26. This is our even number function, so we could also say the 13th even number is 26. Number 7 asks us to find S of 21, which means we're going to plug in 21 for n. So we're going to do 21 squared, which if you put in that in your calculator, you're going to get 441. So we could say that S of 21 equals 441. And for our last one, they ask us to find A of 10, and they give us this function, 3.14 times r squared. So in our calculator, we put 3.14 times 10 squared, which is going to give us 314. So we could say that A of 10 equals 314, and that would be our answer.